Here over at Subscribe Star. I have a mailbox. If you need to send me anything, drop me an email, let me know. So, Greece, Pink Lady, Rise of the Pink Ladies. I saw this, so you wouldn't have to. And I really, really mean that you wouldn't have to see this. This is the Thorius Unlimited guy used to do like Batgirl reviews. This is up there with that in terms of even worse. Yeah, I guess it actually is even worse because Batgirl's kind of telling you right up front what it is. So this movie should be pushed into the sun. So a short review because it's really impossible to kind of cover this stuff without going into the cultural Marxist oh dear God, stuff of it nonstop, and YouTube only will put up with so much of that before they show you the door. So in the interview with these idiots, they talk about updating this Grease, and they go, "We love the original; it was such a classic." And they say the original, and they want to honor Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta or whatever. It's like, yeah, sure, yeah, this looks exactly like you're honoring. Yeah, no. Um, so they say the original was a 50s flick through a 70s lens, fair enough, and this is the 50s through a 2023 lens, except 2023 sucks. I don't mean that hyperbolically. I mean current year sucks. I was around for the past. The past was better. Current year really sucks. So the whole vibe of this movie is off. It's just endless bitterness and hatred, and underneath the surface is this tribal conflict, which is what most people don't care about. They just don't want to see this. This is not why people are turning on a streaming show to see the Hollywood cultural Bolsheviks, get their messaging across. And we look at the Hollywood people and we go like, oh yeah, I think you people are the problem because we're freaking awesome. It's just Hollywood fomenting this endless discord. So the short version is all they had to do was try to tell the original story as close as possible, but they can't do that because, and this is going to sound weird, because people would love it and it would be a big success. And just kind of think about that one for a second. If they like with Rings of Power, any of these other shows, if they gave people what they want, they'd be just a money printer. We'd be raking in money. And you go, yeah, that's true. Like it's weird they don't do that. Yeah, keep going down that path and realize that they're willing to forego money. The thing is, they're globalists. They cannot portray the past in a positive light because people will look at the present and they see how crappy the present is. Then they look to the better past and they start looking nervously to the future and realize that it's all going to get worse, which is why they have to retell the past. They're like, oh, it was always like this. Like, those old videos on YouTube about cities around the world. I'm sure those are going to come down eventually. YouTube has got a lot of missing videos over the decades. Oh, well, those videos were problematic. Okay. 1984 says what? The thing is, all this is true, which is why it's so hard to talk about under our Google Masters, because it's actually a very deep, dark, serious issue. They literally won't just tell Grease or Lord of the Rings or Willow, The Witcher, or any of the other stories. Like even She-Hulk, they just won't give people what they want because people love those stories and the people in those stories. Because humans are not fungible. They very much love the original actors in those stories. And to be fair, Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta, that combination, like there's like 100 movies you could name where they had that weird chemistry, where they just got the cast so right, and they just like, yeah, that's lightning in a bottle. That's the best way to describe it. You're not going to try to replicate that kind of stuff. So the thing is, they realize many things that Hollywood doesn't want the cattle to contemplate, which is why it always feels like, yeah, the West just constantly goes from one emergency to another, one shiny object, some Al Gore type of, you're going to be underwater in 20 years. It's fine mention that because he said that 20 years ago. I think today that the world would be underwater and whatever. It's like, the sea levels haven't changed. You know that, right? Anyway, so you can go sailing if you want to watch the first 10 minutes yourself. It's actually kind of crossed the line into something that's so bad that it's interesting to watch because it allows you to peer into the mind of a globalist lizard, or something like Batwoman, which was on the air for 3 years, believe it or not. There's nothing interesting about that. That's like, it's too much. It's too much bad. None of it makes sense, but the main theme of the story is that blonde people are really bad. The hero of the show are two Mexican girls who go around and like they're the lightest of the light. go around carefully pointing out how horrible blonde people are. It's like, I know, right? They're the worst, aren't they? Like, can we shine this light at anyone else? How dare you? And the Latina is supposed to be the hot chick, or the more Latina of the two Latinas is supposed to be the hot chick, but she's a little bit thick around the waist. I mean, for Hollywood, I hope no women are listening to this, because when you call a chick fat, they lose their freaking mind. Touch a woman, or put your finger inside a woman and touch grass or whatever. The thing is, I mean, she's fat for Hollywood. If she was your neighbor, she'd be fine. But Hollywood rolls completely different. Hollywood skinny is not like normal people. It is a whole different world. When my partner in crime and I used to travel, we used to refer. You got to be careful saying partner these days, right? That's how dating myself I am. I used to be able to call people partners. We used to refer to girls as Northern versus Southern California hot, because Southern California skinny is actually, it's actually very inspiring. It will, like, you'll never feel as fat as you do. Walking through. There's some towns around America and around the world you walk through, like Paris in the 90s, or like South Lake Tahoe, or parts of LA. You're walking around and you'll feel big, even if you're in shape. You think you're in shape around. You just feel big. You feel like a bigger person. Where you see like a 105-pound beautiful Parisian woman, or in South Lake Tahoe, there are a lot of chicks who like look like they had never seen a carb in their life, and they're in their 30s and 40s, and they just, I mean, like tiny, tiny. Anyway, so this chick I'm trying to say is fat for Hollywood. She'd be smoking hot probably in any other situation. Anyway, did I mention how much they hate blonde people? Which is weird, because basically everything cool is from blonde people. So this show is full on Latin, Asian, Africans, but all the blonde people are monsters for some reason. Gosh. So none of this makes sense. This is set in the 50s, yet it's made with the Frankfurt School cultural bullshit modern propaganda. And then there's this flat chested lesbian who's hanging out with the guys. There's a picture of her somewhere. I'll get her in a second. These are the two. I think these are supposed to be the two Latina chicks. So there's this flat chested lesbian who's hang out with the guys. Why would they want her around? Guys don't want women to be one of the gang, because men enjoy each other's company. All it takes is one woman to ruin the vibe. Only in Hollywood do people act like this, because Hollywood are lizard types who are sacrificing babies to Moloch. And the cringe on this is just off the charts. They're heavily pushing this tribe mixing for some wacky reason, which I always wondered about. If you do that, you instantly destroy your history and your blood tribal roots, which of course is the let me get to, there's this skinny. They're probably going to have some kind of BLT relationship. Which, of course, is the goal. A rootless, easily led slave class obsessed with Disney versus HBO. Sports ball, soy slop, video games, sugar and prawn, and whatever degeneracy they can be brainwashed into believing, which, if you look around you and don't say it in the comments, you can perhaps see some examples of that. Hollywood never pushes Euro, tribalism, nationalism. They only push the methods that destroy a nation, and people think it's just harmless entertainment. Hollywood is the world's greatest weapon. It's a bomb that takes 70 years, but it's more dangerous than any conventional war ever fought. They even do little weird things where a Puerto Rican marries an Italian, but they degrade and belittle the Italian. But they do it really casually. I mean, you can watch the first season 1, episode 1 for yourself, but they respect the Spanish. It seems like a minor thing, and it makes you sound a little petty when you bring it up. You're like, yeah, but I can bring up endless examples, and you realize, this is the correlation. It all adds up, where every single time it always comes to degrade some people, it's always going to be the European group. They're not treating people equally. They're just flat out racist. It takes a minute to see it, but when it clicks, you see it often. And it's not confirmation bias, because you can literally point out concrete examples of it. They include these weird little scenes that they don't explain. It's just assumed that you agree with their cultural bullshit nonsense. They're the scene where let me get to her, the chick again, the chick on the left, okay, this chick, she's just the lightest of the light skin Latinas, is talking to the other even lighter skinned Latina, and implying that her life is so difficult and she has to survive school. With the other girl, it was kind of a Mean Girls vibe thing. The other girl has life so much easier, and you look at her and you think, like, why exactly would somebody who's conventionally attractive like yourself have to just survive high school? Are you, like, what exactly are you saying? Is somebody giving you a hard time? Oh my gosh, is it the black students giving you a hard time? Is it the Asian students? Is it the your Latino students giving you a hard time? Oh, it's. I'm guessing you're implying that it's the. Are you implying it's the blonde students giving you a hard time? She doesn't say. It's kind of weird. I mean, but you watch enough of this stuff, you're like, we're not all on the same page with you. Like none of these things you're implying or saying make sense at all. When half this, when no, I mean like 90% of the student body looks like they're Latino, Asian, or African, or some kind of mix. It's like who exactly is bullying you when the European kids are the minority in the school? How does that make sense? Who's bullying you when you're part of the majority and you're conventionally attractive? That doesn't make sense either. So the weird thing is they're pushing. What am I going to do this? They're pushing the need to mix. And I mean outside of just this Hollywood show, right? They push that all the time. You got to mix, mix, mix. And when you do that, well, you're losing the unique character traits of the individual groups pre-mixing, like instantly. As soon as you mix, it's all over. But they show that forcing people to mix causes endless conflict. And in shows like this, they portray that endless conflict is all the blonde people's fault. Which you watch enough of these shows, you just come to a conclusion like, oh, so why do it? The message is that people hate the other tribes, so why not just split and allow people to not associate with people who cause conflict? Hollywood never addresses that issue. They say that they and the left in general go, oh, you have to mix, everything has to be mixed, you have to, it's just the endless division between the concept of global versus national is that you draw a circle around yourself and say this is us, you're not us, you're on the other side of it, and that terrifies these globalists. And you go, but there's endless conflict once you start mixing, so why do it? And then everything, like instead of saying, well, it takes, there's two sides to this conflict, it's like no, everything is blonde people's fault, but you also can't separate. But clearly, separating is the best path forward. And so none of this makes sense. Like their own messaging, the left wing literally makes the argument that the far right wing also makes, except that the right wing says it openly, but the left wing just implies it, and you have to draw your own very reasonable conclusion. You're going, oh, I see all this intertribal conflict because you're forced together. It's like, well, there's no need to continue along this path. Like, why? You seem to think like people are like will not come to that conclusion themselves. I have to say this as carefully as I can, but it seems like they both groups want the same thing. Safe spaces essentially for individual groups that because clearly it seems like this concept, this globalist concept, is not working out too well. And I mean, their movies themselves, this type of propaganda movie, that's what it literally shows. This endless conflict. I mean, the viewer is welcome to draw their own conclusion. It's like you see it. How many other Hollywood type of remakes you need to see it with the Witcher Blood Origin or Willow or all these other shows? It's like, gee, you see this groups always have endless conflict. Yeah, that's right. And it's always one group's is always going to be the at fault. Oh, well, just happens to mention it. Yes, well, I mean, yeah. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.